Hello and welcome back to Continental Club. We discuss the hottest topics in European football. Yes, for the second week in a row, guys, we are back in the East Dulwich Tavern. What a treat. And it is the end of the Champions League semi-finals. The final will be between Real Madrid and Liverpool. We don't yet know the Europa League final. That is, of course, taking place tonight. But guys, what a football feast we had this week. McCubs, you were proclaiming the end of Man City on our shoot earlier
I was,
today.
yeah. They're done, I think. They're done. I don't think Pep survives this. But it is mad, isn't it? You know, at the Bernabeu as well. Like, I mean, what a collapse. I mean, it's just one of the best comebacks ever, isn't it? Like, did it all happen in the space of like 9 minutes or something? Like, and Real Madrid are just, they just beggars belief, doesn't it? Like, I can't think of a team that has just like, you know, stumbled through games and just like got goals at such vital moments as this team. I thought last night it seemed like that was coming to an end, but it's not. And I'm amazed actually, every Liverpool fan I know says they were rooting for Real Madrid and they wanted Real Madrid in the final. Despite Liverpool's very good record against City in cups, they're still like, you know, Real Madrid are obviously not as good. They just rather them, but like, I don't know, if I was a Liverpool fan right now, I'd be quite scared about that final, you know? Like Real Madrid are just, Karim Benzema just like produces in those moments, doesn't he? And Rodrigo as well, shout out to him, 2 goals again.
Absolutely. He was immense, and Henry Camavinga as well coming off the bench was awesome. I mean, what did you make of the sort of? I mean, lots of people have talked about the Man City sort of collapse, but Real Madrid deserve enormous respect for this run.
It was amazing. I mean, they were behind for what? Across the 180 minutes of normal time, they were behind for about 175 of them. It's staggering.
They didn't even have a shot on target until that Rodrigo goal.
I think there's that Clarence Seedorf quote saying that, you know, PSG and Man City can't build the kind of mentality that you get where when you move to Real Madrid, you're playing for something bigger than yourself. And I think there is an element of truth to that. I think there is something special about the Bernabeu. There's something unbelievable about Real Madrid. I think you get a little bit of that with Liverpool and to an extent United from time to time. But they channeled something different in that game. To go, the BT commentators basically writing them off, talking about the English final, people booking flights, people leaving the stadium. It was amazing, and you're so right. Camavinga off the bench. We even saw every player that came on really gave everything. You saw Asensio jeering up the crowd every tackle he was making. It was Nacho. I thought best performance I've ever seen Nacho play in his life. I thought it was staggeringly good. It was just so exciting, and it's, you know, you can. Their styles, etc., tiki-taka with Guardiola, gegenpressing with Klopp, whatever. I think what Ancelotti does is just get these guys all pushing and believing in the same objective, and it's not always the prettiest football. It's not the most electric on the eye, but really it's something different. It's like a mentality, and I think that's what makes him such a special coach and what makes him almost perfect to be at Real Madrid. I mean, that was just so much fun. That game. I loved every moment of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, over the 2 legs was just amazing. But like, I mean, you bring up Ancelotti. Like, I think it's kind of easy to forget just like how Ancelotti, not even so long ago, was kind of considered like the best coach in the Champions League, and obviously he hadn't really produced that much since La Decima, but now, it's kind of like, it's a nice reminder that this guy knows this competition like the back of his hand, and he can still take a team all the way against the odds. So definitely props to him, and obviously the cigar as well. Obviously, like
that's an iconic photo. This is great. And to think he was nearly at Everton this year.
I know.
He left to go to Real Madrid, but a brief word on some of the Man City players. Like, I think this has really got to be on them rather than Pep. I think even Pep's changes in this game were really effective. I thought Gundogan had his best game in ages when he came on. I thought Zinchenko was excellent. It was the right decision to take off Kyle Walker when he did, because I thought that was going to cost them sooner than it ended up doing. And João Cancelo looked pretty good at right back compared to how he had at left back, which was a little bit loose from João Cancelo's excellent standards. And De Bruyne was really off it as well. I thought Mahrez had a poor game. So this is not really on Pep. So I don't really want this, he's bottled it. Man City bottled it as a team, as an entity. And Real Madrid were worthy entries into this final. To beat PSG, to beat Chelsea, the European champions, to beat probably the best team in the world over the last 5 years consistently, hell of an achievement. But anyway, let's get into today's show, guys. Make sure you leave your thoughts about the semi-final in the comments down below, and we will try to reply to as many as possible. But today we are talking about rebuilds. Rebuilds this summer. Yes, that is right, because there are just a few games left of this season. And as you know, lots of clubs around Europe will be preparing their summer business. with some having a lot more to do than others, which is why we're going to start with Borussia Dortmund at the suggestion of @Sean15 Mackenzie. McCubs, difficult season for them in many ways, slightly disappointing. They're losing their best player in the summer, but they have already made some interesting inroads, particularly in defence.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be overly concerned if I was a Dortmund fan. I think that the Haaland thing is a big issue, but we were discussing Donyell Malen last year. I think by most accounts he has had a disappointing year, at least in terms of his output at Dortmund. But like you back him to come back stronger next year. I think he has grown into the season. In his overall performances. So that's definitely an area that they need to look at, of course. I don't know, it's a difficult one. I was thinking about Borussia Dortmund the other day, and I think they have had a fair amount of stick over the last few years, but because they haven't been able to match up to Bayern. I think that's quite understandable in many respects. They've been quite unfortunate with injuries, especially at the back. They never really looked like proper title contenders under Lucien Favre, despite having a lot of talent. Defensively, they have had issues. But equally, this is still a club that sell all their best talent and still qualify for the Champions League every year. And I think they do need to take credit for that. I think we slightly kind of blinded by the post-Klopp era. We kind of just assume that Borussia Dortmund will always qualify for Europe. And actually, I don't think that's the case. When you look at them in the kind of 2000s and before that, this is an incredibly well-run club. And their business so far this year, alludes to that as well. Obviously, Niklas Süle coming in on a free, isn't he? Obviously spent 5 years at Bayern Munich. Probably didn't live up in the end to the hype that surrounded him when he first arrived there from Hoffenheim, but I think is still one of the best centre halves in Germany. I think he's been unlucky with injuries, hasn't he, as well? But in terms of his ball progression, in terms of his defensive work as well, there aren't many better in the Bundesliga, and obviously they're getting Nico Schlotterbeck as well, who was recently confirmed from Freiburg, being one of the most impressive young defenders, arguably in Europe this year, at 22 years old. Big guy at 6'3". He ranks in the top kind of 10% of defenders for things like progressive passes, dribbles, touches in the attacking area. That's also really promising. And alongside Manuel Akanji, I think those two can really upgrade that defence and take some pressure off players like Mats Hummels. Obviously, I think, is Axel Witsel going to leave this summer?
Yes,
I feel like he is. So
I think they're going to get rid of Zagadou as well.
Zagadou, another player who's just been constantly injured, hasn't he? So I really, really like those signings, to be honest. I think they're very, very clear upgrades. For a defence which has had like Witsel playing in it at some points this season. Apparently they're also close to signing Rami Bensebaini. I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation. Zach behind the camera might be able to help me out, but apparently it is. Also very promising defender from Mönchengladbach. 12 million euros is apparently what he's going to cost. Not going to lie, I don't know a ton about him, but he can play in a number of different positions. He can play at centre back, he can play as a wing back as well on the left, also in midfield. Very strong defensive numbers as well. So they look like they've sorted that area, which I think was the problem area in that team. I think defensive midfield is potentially somewhere where they could upgrade as well. Just because I think Jude Bellingham, I think you ideally want to have him a bit further forward in the long term. I think otherwise he's a little bit wasted deep in midfield. Mahmoud Dahoud has performed fairly admirably over the last kind of 2 years. But there's just not that much cover there, and I don't think he is an elite midfielder. This is a team that ultimately want to be, challenging, getting to the Champions League quarterfinals again every year, like they used to. And then up front, of course, Adeyemi's pretty much done as well, isn't he? But I was doing the scout report this week, which go and check that out after this, about how to replace Haaland, and I think this is the area where it's a little bit up in the air. It kind of depends what kind of system Rosa wants to play next year. But obviously losing Haaland, it gives you a huge gap there, and also gives you a bit of an opportunity to switch up how the attack will function. So like Adeyemi can play, through the centre. He can also play on either flank, like Donyell Malen. So I think there is an opportunity to perhaps go for another centre forward or go for a winger, like someone like Sebastian Haller. I think would be a good option.
Getting a lot of love in the comments.
Yeah, I think he. It kind of depends how much he's going to cost. I feel like Ajax would want to make a decent profit on him, but Ten Hag's leaving. That squad will get turned over again. and he's in his peak years, and he has great Bundesliga experience. I was looking at his stats from when he was at Eintracht Frankfurt. That final year at Frankfurt, he was better than Luka Jovic in that front two. I think he ranked second in terms of like his goals to minute ratio. I think he was second in the Bundesliga.
I think he was pretty creative that year as well.
He was. I think he got something like 15 goals and 11 assists or so, something around that. Like he was seriously good. And yeah, the West Ham move just took the wind out of his sails, didn't it? But I think a player like that is ready to come back into a top 5 league and take it by storm. So that would probably be my best bet in terms of another centre forward for Dortmund if they were to go down that route.
I like it. I mean, Henry, where do you stand on Dortmund? Because we saw again at the weekend they conceded 4 goals against Bochum, which is, I mean, they've conceded goals in big games, but they should not be conceding 4 against Bochum. And also, my secondary question to that is players like Hazard, Brandt, they get a lot of criticism on my timeline for their inconsistency.
Yes.
Would you be looking to move some of those more experienced players along that just probably haven't delivered that consistent performances?
Yeah, there's a number of senior players, even across the midfield as well, that I think could probably be moved on. Emre Can, I think the crowd are pretty fed up with him and some of the mistakes he's making, as you've alluded to. Conceded so many goals this season, 50 in all competitions. And there's a load of interesting free transfers potentially out there, or sort of low-fee central midfielders, central defensive midfielders, which would suit the system you're talking about in terms of Jude Bellingham pushing forward. I think Grilic at Hoffenheim, he's been amazing this year, filling in at centre-half, but he can play central midfield very well. Full Austrian international, really good player. Also, Boubacar Kamara out of Marseille, similar story, can play in either of those positions as well. I think he's going to be available for free, if not very cheaply this summer. These are the kind of players that I think Dortmund really need to be looking at and trying to make a statement and convince them to go to their club over others. Apparently, Adeyemi's chosen. I think Newcastle or a Premier League side put in a huge offer for Adeyemi, but he said, no, I want to go to Dortmund because they need to play off their ability to develop these players. But there are a few signings away from being quite special. It's great to hear some of the business they're getting in done early doors. Schlotterbeck, fantastic. Nicolas Süle, what 2 fantastic signings, as we've said. And yeah, I mean, further forwards, I agree with you about getting more experience forward. There's talk of Ekitike from out of France, but to be honest, 9 goals this season? I don't think that's enough to justify. That's a lot of pressure to put on him to go and suddenly be a big forward. I agree with you. Get someone in their prime, get someone who scores goals, knows competitions like the Champions League. Because I think they need a decent run in the Champions League. They're going to get 60 million from Haaland. That's a good base to go out and try and make a load of wholesale challenges. I agree, Torgan Hazard, I don't think he's good enough anymore to play consistently at the top level. Yeah. Julian Brandt, I think he scored about 7 or 8 this season, assisted a similar number, but apparently his performance is just in and out the whole time. They could probably get a bit of money from him as well if they really did look to move him on. So yeah, I do think that they should use this opportunity to really try and push on and see if they can catch this Bayern side, because the foundations that they've made with their original signings so far are strong. And yeah, I think they have to avoid a situation here where they're conceding so many goals, because they do score goals, they can be creative, they can get results over the line. It's just, this is a huge moment for them to really go and make a statement. And I think I'm excited to see what the rest of their business they're going to do. But yeah, Boubacar Kamara, Grilic, players like that, I think that'd be really interesting signings.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fascinating to see what they do. And yeah, the pressure is kind of on, because you felt like this was their final season with Haaland. It felt quite obvious from the get-go that he was always going to move this year. And because of his injuries, they haven't actually got that close to Bayern. But then they have improved on their points tally, despite being really poor in the cup competitions, like losing to St. Pauli, getting beaten home and away by Ajax, losing heavily away at Sporting CP, then getting thrashed by Rangers. I just would have loved to see them win a trophy this year, but it wasn't to be. Right, let's move on to Napoli and Sunster Addy's suggestion. Basically, there's actually quite a lot of change going on at Napoli this year. So there are 5 players that are out of contract. That includes Mertens, Ospina, who are regulars, Juan Jesus, Malqui and Goulam. Goulam, unfortunately, with injuries over the last few years, did look like he was going to be one of the best left-backs in Italy at one stage. Hasn't really happened. And Anguissa and Tuanzebe are only there on loan. They'll probably get Anguissa permanently. So their midfielders, Zielinski, Anguissa, Fabian Ruiz, unless someone goes for Fabian Ruiz, looks quite solid, to be honest. But it's the forward line that I think they really need to address, because Insigne's leaving to Toronto, as Henry was saying off camera, going for big money there. And 4 of their 7 most used players throughout their squad are over the age of 30. So there's a bit of ageing in that squad. There's a new forward line that they need to. I think they'll manage to keep hold of Osimhen, unless someone goes absolutely crazy with some weird amount of money. Maybe even Arsenal or Man United, potentially, going for a striker this summer. But unless someone does that, I can't really see him leaving. So we're basically looking for a winger for Napoli. And the dream here is to pick up the next Rafa Leao, who has just emerged into an absolute animal in Serie A. I think he's looked exceptional this season. Hasn't probably had the goal and assist return you'd expect from a player looking that comfortable at that level. But yeah, crucial goal at the weekend for Milan. So we're looking for the next Rafa Leao. And I've got a bit of a rogue shout here, lads, and I want to get your opinion. But Christian Pulisic, experienced at Dortmund, hasn't really got going at Chelsea, mainly due to injury issues. Has had some great performances from Chelsea, but I'm just not sure whether he's ever going to prosper in this system at this club at the moment. It feels like he's quite far down the pecking order, even when everyone's fully fit, above players like Callum Hudson-Odoi, but below Ziyech. You know, Lukaku's probably got more minutes than him in recent weeks as well. I know he's had his injury issues. Timo Werner's come into a bit of form, and they look like they're going to build that attack around Havertz, Mount, Werner going forward, really. And Pulisic's attacking numbers have dropped year on year at Chelsea, and it is a little bit concerning. He's still very young. He's still got a lot of potential in him. But could you guys see, McCubs, could you see Pulisic potentially being available? And if so, would Napoli be the sort of standard of club he'd be looking at, or do you think that's too big a drop down?
I don't think it's a drop down, really. I mean, it is a drop down, but I don't think it's too big of one. Like, I don't think Pulisic has, unfortunately, warranted talk of a sideways step, really. Chelsea are a really top club. A club that, if things had gone differently, may well have, been looking at a Champions League final again this year. They've been wildly inconsistent in the last few months, but yeah, in terms of elite coaching, in terms of elite players, they are still right up there. And Pulisic, I don't think, has lived up to that, unfortunately. Aside from that kind of that really good spell he had towards the end of his first season, it felt like he was really going to become a talisman. And when they signed him, it felt like he was signed as an Eden Hazard replacement, and he's got nowhere near that, unfortunately. So yeah, I can very much see him as one of Chelsea's most saleable assets being let go of, especially with the kind of uncertainty, that's currently surrounding the club. So yeah, and I don't think Napoli would be too big a step down for him. I don't know whether, I don't know. The main thing is whether Pulisic would want to move to another new country. I'm not sure. I don't know whether he'd maybe be more comfortable with a move back to Germany. Napoli, I don't know. Napoli's a great club to play for, right? But I think it takes a certain type of character, and I don't know whether Pulisic is that guy. I don't want to kind of put a blemish on him, but he's not the most charismatic kind of player. And I think you see with someone like Hirving Lozano struggled a little bit in that first year at Napoli. He's never fully got going, and he seems like a little. I don't know. There's just something about those kind of players who aren't quite as don't quite show as much heart. And this is obviously intangible kind of stuff, but there's just something about him that makes me think I just couldn't quite imagine him. I think he is the kind of profile player they need, and I think he would be great again in Serie A. He's got the raw attributes to absolutely tear up and get double figures for both goals and assists in a Serie A season. It's just whether he can put that run of games together, I think. I think technically he is a good fit. Yeah.
I was going to say Sassuolo's Hamid Traore, the young guy. I think he's been amazing this year. Every time I watched him, he's electric on the ball. If they were looking to get someone more local to their league, I think a lot of the Sassuolo forward line would be an interesting pickup for most clubs as well. Scamacca too.
Raspadori.
Raspadori as well. That'd be a fantastic signing for someone like Napoli. It remains to be seen just how big their budget is at the moment. I think they've sort of COVID hit them quite hard. But I would like to, if Richarlison was available as well, I think that'd be another kind of signing that they should maybe be looking at. If they've got the ability to go after a 40, 50 million pound player again, I think Richarlison would be a perfect fit for Napoli. I really do. And I think he's got that kind of Brazilian flair, which I think they quite appreciate, etc. So yeah, those are the kind of signings you said. You've written down Pedro Neto here, which I think it would be an interesting shout. Whether or not Wolves would bother selling him at this point, I think certainly after
he's been injured for so long.
Yeah, exactly. And then Bologna's Aaron Hickey, I'd love that. That would be amazing to see him go up. Well-deserved upgrade after he's absolutely smashed the Serie A. Although as a Scotsman, you could probably more pride for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been awesome. I mean, he's one of the very few under 21 players that has played regular in Serie A this year, which is what everyone was complaining about when Juventus got knocked out. When Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup, everyone sort of bemoaned the lack of young Italian players and young players in Serie A full stop that are getting regular minutes, and Hickey has really impressed at Bologna this year. I think he's got 5 goals and 1 assist. So yeah, maybe he could be a Mario Rui replacement, but we shall see. Let's move on to another club in Juve. We've talked about Juve a lot, lads, so maybe we don't need to go as deep as this as we did on Napoli and Dortmund. But this comes in from Fred FQ _Bob. McCubs, it always feels like with Juve, potentially we could be looking at a change in manager. I think would be a good potential place to start. And then maybe a little creativity issue.
I don't know about changing. Like, Allegri wasn't necessarily the best choice to take over again from Pirlo. But equally, I guess if Pochettino's available, he would be a bit of a dream appointment, would he? Otherwise, I don't know. I kind of think Juve do maybe need to stick with a manager for longer than one season at this point. And Juve have improved, as much as they were bad in the first half of the season, they have improved in the second half of the season. They've obviously secured Champions League football. I kind of feel like continuity would be good for this Juve side. However, the team's still relatively unbalanced, of course. I think the fullback areas are potentially the most worrying in some respects. Alexandro is surely going to leave either this summer or next.
About time.
They really need to upgrade in that left back position. I know Danilo's done a good job there over the last 2 years, but I think that left side is just so bad, attacking wise at least. That they have almost no kind of flair or creativity going down that left side. So I think that is an area of concern. I think they do need to find a long-term replacement as well for Juan Cuadrado on the right. So I think those are areas of concern, and obviously Dybala's probably going to leave in the summer as well, and so there's not very much creativity in the attack. They absolutely smashed it with the signing of Vlahovic. They just put their money where their mouth was, didn't they? And he's looked very, very promising so far. Not as consistent as perhaps we would have liked to have seen, but I think he'll score 20 plus goals next season, no doubt about it. I think they do need to look for a kind of number 10. And actually, I was thinking about it with Dortmund as well, because Dortmund need creative flair. Like Jude Bellingham could become that guy, but they still do need more creativity, especially if, say, someone like Julian Brandt was to leave. And it's really difficult to actually think of creative players who could be on the market this year. I really like your suggestion here, Doogie, of Lucas Paqueta. He's, I think, affordable. Obviously has played in Serie A before, maybe has a bit of unfinished business there considering how disappointing that spell at Milan. And he's at a Lyon side that are not going anywhere fast, are they? If you offer him Champions League football, I think he'll snap your hand off. His numbers at Lyon have been really, really impressive, haven't they? 12 goals and 7 assists this season. His underlying numbers are really, really good as well. Could probably up things on the creative passing kind of angle, but I think with the kind of dynamic central midfield, which I think Juve have actually started, to be fair to them, signing Locatelli and Zakaria over the last 12 months, I think has upgraded that midfield a lot. It's a lot more of a modern looking midfield with those two in it. It could be quite an interesting matchup there, I think. I do really like that suggestion, because I don't think there aren't very many kind of available or potentially available number 10s out there at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit tough. I mean, and also you look at their defence, and I quite facetiously put this on Twitter earlier, that they've sold Romero, Spinazzola and João Cancelo since 2019-20 for about £80 million. And if they kept all of those, plus De Ligt, they'd have a very solid backline for the future. And with Chiellini leaving, I think that was announced today that Chiellini's leaving. I think they should move on from Bonucci as well. They've got Demiral coming back from loan, but I don't think he's really excelled as much as people expected at Atalanta. Daniele Rugani, don't think he's good enough for Juve going forward. And De Ligt supposedly wants to leave. Their whole centre-back options roster is just non-existent at the moment. But a Juve fan quite correctly pointed out that they sold those players in order to bring in De Ligt. They don't have Man City-esque, PSG-esque resources. Juve have to be quite clever about their finances, despite the fact, more so than any other Italian club, that they've got a massive advantage because they own the rights to their stadium. etc. They don't have English money or Premier League money, I should say. So yeah, it's potentially been a bit of a difficult rebuild with their defence over the last few years, but they definitely need to get some centre-backs in there. They're linked with Romagnoli from AC Milan, who's leaving on a free, I believe. I don't think that's really that exciting, to be totally honest, but let's see who they bring in. Henry, let's move on to some other clubs. We've got Ajax at Wisniewski's 98 suggestion. We've got Atalanta at Andres A series of numbers suggestion. Ajax is an interesting one because obviously they're losing their manager at the same time. They're likely losing Gravenberch, Mazraoui. A lot of change again.
Yeah, kind of an end of an era, really, I think, with Ten Hag moving on. Have they announced who is taking over?
I don't think so
yet?
No.
Yeah, so, I mean, they will have to go again, but they have been smart. I think them and PSV have been smart at picking up maybe players like Philip Max and Götze, maybe players you wouldn't expect to necessarily make a move perhaps from Germany over to the Eredivisie in recent years, and I think they can. They could make some smart business again. I like your suggestion of Brian Cherki. Still only started 9 league games for Lyon this year. For all the talk and chat, ever.
Wow.
I mean, for all the chat of him being such a big name, that is quite a surprise. Noni Madueke, I don't think he's going to be leaving PSV to go to Ajax at this point in his career. Goose Till, I think that's a really interesting guy. He's absolutely killed it at Feyenoord this season. He's been essential to their run in the Europa Conference League as well.
Was he the guy that used to be at Spartak?
Spartak own him. He's on loan at Feyenoord at the moment because he moved up from Alkmaar, AZ over. I think he's definitely not going to be going back to Russia. He's going to be looking for a move. So I think if any of them, for £15 million, I reckon that'll probably be what it will be. I think he'll be a really smart addition, still super young, clearly just loves life in the Eredivisie as well. Florian Neuhaus, that's kind of example of what I was saying here, just at Borussia Mönchengladbach, who we could have done a whole show on probably in terms of needing a rebuild. I think, that could be a really fascinating transfer. I really rate him as a midfielder. Like everyone at Gladbach's had a bit of a stinking season, this one. So we'll see. One more, I suppose. Mazraoui looks like he's going to be on the move at some point. I thought he was going in the summer. In the winter, he sort of seems to never quite sure where he's ending up next. Ethan Laird, I like that as a suggestion. Yeah, that's very good.
Apparently he's very good. I don't watch Man United's youngsters.
Well, he plays. He's killed it for Swansea.
Yeah, exactly.
He's been really, really impressive. I think, and like I said, most of these young guys going to Ajax would be a quality addition. Or bring back
Gibbs White.
Bring back Serginho Dest. No, Gibbs White. No, I'm writing that one. Serginho Dest. That could be an exciting move too. But yeah, I think Ajax, they're going to have to make a few interesting additions to keep pace. If they want to maintain the level they've been hitting in the Champions League in recent years, I think they have to be bold. And but fortunately, I think with Edwin van der Sar as their director, he clearly knows what he's doing, and they're not losing too many pieces of the puzzle as yet. So I think, like I said, there's some options out there for them, because I still think the market isn't going to be at some ridiculous level that we've seen it in recent years.
Yeah, and they've picked up, as you say, cleverly from the Premier League in recent years, players that aren't necessarily getting the minutes they're probably talents deserve. Like Tadic was sort of falling out with Southampton when he went there. Haller was a very good pickup from West Ham, as it turned out. Atalanta's an interesting one. 9 of their 30 most used players this season are 29 or older, which is kind of mental, but they're a club that have just had a great crop of players that have all been at around the same age at the same time. Ilicic is now probably over the hill, and I'm not quite sure what's going on with his mental health at the moment as well, but obviously we wish him all the best, but who knows whether he'll continue next year. Papu Gomez has already moved on. Zapata, Luis Muriel, they're now 31. And they made some clever moves last summer. Coop Miners obviously came in. Demiral as well, but he's been a big success, Coop Miners. But Malinovsky's now 29 as well. Like, these are their top players. And they've got Pasalic, who stepped up this year, but Atalanta, it's a bit of a tricky one, because obviously not the biggest club, not the biggest reputation up until 5-6 years ago, and they don't have the biggest budget. So Atalanta's won. Briefly to finish, McCubs, let's talk about Man United, J-Zone 11. I mean, we talk about it. I mean, the lads do every sort of Sunday vibes, really, but the player we really want to talk about is Konrad Laimer, who's been linked to Man United this week.
Yeah.
Feels like a Rangnick recommendation.
Very much a Rangnick recommendation. I feel like he was being linked with the club kind of in November, December time when Rangnick came in as well. So, I mean, he's clearly a very good system player, isn't he, Konrad Laimer? He's a defensive powerhouse. His passing is pretty tip-top as well, like young, physically capable. Like he ticks a lot of boxes. But my one concern with Lima would be his injury record. Like, missed almost all of last season, didn't he? This year, he's only just topped 1,000 minutes in the Bundesliga. I know he's come back into the team in the last couple of months and is impressed, but that would be my one. Well, I think it is a big worry because I just don't think United can afford to buy players who might get injured. Like, look at Rafael Varane, like, big signing, was supposed to upgrade that defence, and he's missed half the season, and it's been the games in which he's missed have been the ones where United have really been embarrassed, and that's where the season has kind of hinged on. It could have been a very different story if Varane had been fit the entire campaign, especially in terms of Champions League qualification. So I feel like a player, I think that has to be taken into account with these things, and so for that reason, I think, I would maybe steer clear of Konrad Laimer. Yeah, I think there's a lot.
Like Dragon's Den.
I'm trying to think who. I do think there's a lot of players of his profile on the market. I don't think necessarily all the eggs should be thrown in the Konrad Laimer basket at this moment in time.
Okay, well, like Dragon's Den, I'm actually investing a lot in Konrad Laimer.
Okay.
I really believe in Konrad Laimer. I really like watching him play. I get your injury concerns, but I just think he's excellent. It shouldn't all be based about his stats, but his pressures per 90 are just off the chain. Like, this guy is an absolute workhorse. I think he'd arrive at Man United with 80% of United fans never having heard of him, which could be an advantage, to be honest. And hopefully they won't do the classic thing that English football fans love to do, where they rule someone out after 2-3 games, and they're always just stuck in their head as, oh, he's average or whatever, because he made a mistake in his first game. I think Konrad Laimer is the start of a potentially great midfield with Man United if they pair him with another excellent central midfielder. But yeah, it's on a lot of provisions, that. But Laimer, I would be very excited about, Man United fans. Whose side are you on? German football fans, let us know. Do you think Laimer is ready for a move to Man United, or do you think his injury concerns will hold him back? What do you make of our other suggestions for the rebuilds? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on to our big match predictions. Okay, so guys, the league is hotting up. Going into last week, I was on 36, Henry was on 31, McCubbs was on 23. Still some work to do.
Yep.
Still time though, still time. Last week we had Milan versus Fiorentina. I went with a 1-1 draw. McCubbs went 2-0. Henry went 1-0. It finished 1-0, so 3 points to Henry Hill. How will that affect the title race? Wait and see. 1 point to McCubbs, of course. Marseille versus Lyon. We all backed Marseille.
Awful.
And Lyon thrashed them 3-0. Who saw that coming? We didn't, so 0 points for us. Leverkusen versus Frankfurt was our final one. Henry went 2-1 Leverkusen. McCubbs went 3-0. I went 4-1. We all went a little crazy, guys. It was just 2-0. So 1 point to all of us. So going into this week, scores on the doors. I'm on 37. Henry just 2 points behind on 35.
Wow.
And McCubbs is on 25. Maybe you can get amongst and sort of disrupt us, maybe. Disrupt the title race.
I might,
you can play the role of Newcastle or Spurs this weekend in the Premier League. Right, let's kick off with our first game. We're going to do these quite rapid, lads, because we have been rambling on with our rebuilds for ages, although I did enjoy that section. We are talking Lille versus Monaco, Friday, 8 p.m, 4th versus 10th, 11 points between them, kicking off in just a few hours, so by the time you watch this, we could already look like idiots. Henry, Lille versus Monaco, what are you thinking? Very dodgy season from Lille. Monaco in great form.
Yeah, I mean, after our prediction for the game, French game last week, who knows? I will say that Marseille started really strongly, and they should have been about 2-3.
Did you watch this?
They should have been about 2-3-0 ahead if Milik could shoot straight. So that's, we were almost there. Anyway, this game, I've been quite impressed by Monaco this season. I think Philippe Clement's come in 3rd of January. And actually, I like Kovac. I actually rated him, and I think he'd be a good pickup for most teams. But yeah, Clement's done a brilliant job so far. 10 wins in 16 games, including winning their last 7. PSG comfortably beat them. Rennes and Nice as well. Rennes have been really impressive recently too. I'm backing Monaco for the win in this one. I think Lille have just been pants. They lost to Troyes 3-0 last weekend. I think it's sad. Benjamin Andre is still their best player by a country mile, and he's just basically holding the fort while the rest of the team slightly falls around them. They need a rebuild. Botman's going to go. David's going to go. It's all going to fall apart for Lille. so yeah, it's going to be a long road. Sanchez is probably going to go as well. So yeah, I'm not feeling too optimistic about Lille's chances. This game, I'm going to go Monaco. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Monaco.
3-1 win, fair enough. I think McCubbs is interesting mentioning Niko Kovac actually, because I think there might be a few positions open in Germany this summer, and a return to someone like a Gladbach under Adi Hütter have done pretty terribly, to be honest. Maybe Niko Kovac could get a job there.
Yeah, potentially. Obviously, it was Frankfurt, wasn't it? Where he was before Bayern. Frankfurt as well, not been amazing this season, although could be in the Europa League final by the time you're watching this. So every cloud, yeah, for sure. Like, he's definitely, as a mid-level kind of manager, I think he's definitely one of the best in Europe, isn't he? He has a really good track record, and yeah, so yeah, for sure. If there are vacancies this summer, I think definitely he'll be top of many clubs' lists. Yeah, I agree with Henry though. Monaco in such good form. They're going for a Champions League place now. Yeah, I'm going to say 3-0.
Nice. What did you go for, Henry?
3-1.
I'll go 2-1 Monaco. Yeah, fine, let's crack on. Second one, Hellas Verona versus Milan. Now on paper, not actually the biggest game, but
huge.
with Milan,
they're all big.
As in terms of the league, it's not that big. It's 9th versus 1st. There's 25 points between them. This is taking place on Sunday night at 7:45. But every game in Serie A involving Inter and Milan right now is just absolutely enormous. Henry, a word on Hellas Verona, because they've been phenomenal this year again. They've now established themselves as a mid-table Serie A club.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were talking about, was it Juric, the manager at Torino, who took them up there? Verona have one of the smallest budgets in Serie A. I love their old school stadium whenever you see it there. It almost feels like an old theatre, what they're playing in. I mean, a lot of the stadiums in Italy are sort of on the brink. but they, they are, so there's a beauty to it all. But yeah, finished 9th, 10th. This season they're 9th again. People call them a mid-table club. That is still such an impressive result. Fingers crossed Fulham will replicate that kind of form when we go up this year. And yeah, I mean, they've been a bit less...
9th next year would be insane.
It's on. You heard it here first. They're obviously a bit less solid in defence this season, but I still think going forward, they've been a bogey side for a lot of the big teams this year. They seem to really step up when it comes to sort of putting on a show for their fans. And Milan aren't blowing teams away at the moment. They're absolutely not blowing teams away at all. It's really tricky win for them last week. So... I'm going to back Milan with a 1-0 win, but I still think this could be a draw.
Fair enough. Okay, you're saying 1-0. That is down in the record books.
Yeah.
No backing out of it. McCubs, Milan. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know whether you've seen the highlights of their win against Fiorentina. That Mike Maignan save.
Oh my God, just amazing, isn't he, Mike Maignan? Like he's
amazing.
He's better than Donnarumma.
He is better than Donnarumma. We've said it before on Continental Club, and we put that trademark to it. And actually, since saying that, I've seen a lot more love for Maignan. Not completely coincidentally, but I think people are really waking up to just how good a keeper he is. He's one of the best shot stoppers in Europe, bar none.
As well.
His distribution's great. He's registered. I think he became the first Milan goalkeeper since Dida to register an assist this season.
Dida,
since Dida in 2006. He's great. Every area of his game, he's been an upgrade on Donnarumma, and he might be making an appearance in our signings of the season 11 next week on Football Daily. Little spoiler. But yeah, what a keeper, and I mean, what a defence as well. When you look at the numbers, you look at they've been scraping 1-0 wins so much this season. The stuff of champions, as the cliche goes. It's really testament to that back line and to Maignan. I think they've conceded something like 25 expected goals, which is that's world class. That's Liverpool, Man City levels. But Mike Maignan has also saved something like 7 post-shot expected goals. So even with a brilliant defence in front of him, he's still, going above and beyond what you'd expect. So yeah, what a signing Maignan's been. Quick thing on Verona. Yeah, it's interesting actually how this year it's been. They've got 3 players who've scored over 10 in the league.
That's so good.
Last year, under Juric, they were really built on quite a solid defence, and as he's kind of done at Torino as well. And so it's interesting to see how they've developed. And actually, another shout out, Ivan Ilic, their 21-year-old central midfielder. I wrote about him start of last season when he was still on loan from Man City. I think they made the deal permanent this last summer. He could be an interesting player to look out for kind of mid-level clubs around Europe, because he's just got a really good all-round skill set. At 21, has a load of experience, very defensively solid as well. So I would keep an eye on Ivan Ilic for sure. As for this game, I think I'll go similar to Henry, to be honest. But I feel like there might be a little bit more to and fro than in the Fiorentina game. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Milan.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, Continental Club exclusive there about Ivan Ilic. Love it. I mean, this is massive for Milan, obviously, but in terms of their next few games, they've got Atalanta and Sassuolo, and actually that is looking a lot harder on paper than it is in actual form. So get this, Atalanta have only won 2 of their last 7 games. As we said, need of a rebuild. Sassuolo have lost their last 3, including a 6-1 defeat to Napoli at the weekend. So having for weeks said that Milan have the harder run in, actually on paper, maybe they don't. Having said that, I'm a bit of an Inter Milan fan. I'm still backing them to fall down at one stage. So I'm going to back this to be a draw. I think it's going to be 1-1.
Yeah.
I don't really know why. There's not a lot of logic to it.
Are you letting club affiliation get in the way of what could be?
I'll throw the league.
Yeah, you could throw the league.
I'll throw the league. I'll do it. I'll do it for Inter.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Right. Third game and final game. Atletico Madrid. I don't know why I said it like that. Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. Sunday 8 p.m. First versus fourth. 20 points between them. Obviously, we've got the champions, Real Madrid, riding high in a Champions League final. But Henry, Atletico Madrid, it's getting pretty tight between them and 4th and 5th at the moment. And they had that disappointing loss to Athletic Club at the weekend. I was watching the highlights of that on the bus on the way over. They were terrible.
Yeah, they were. I think a blessing for them is that Betis have got quite a hard run in. I can't remember who it is exactly off the top of my head, but it's not. I think Betis have got Barcelona as one of their next games, but I would love to see Betis go above Atletico. I wouldn't mind Atletico having to drop out the Champions League, so they have to maybe think twice about what they're going to do in the summer, because just a bit bored of them, really. I mean, losing to Hermoso own goal and an Inaki Williams penalty, that is the dullest defeat I've ever heard. So I mean, it's not great, is it, at all? Obviously, fair play to Inaki Williams, just keeps going, doesn't he? They're only three points ahead. Oh, Real Madrid, will they take their foot off the gas? I mean, the final's not for ages, is it? And
was it the 28th?
Yeah.
So they've got nothing to play for.
Yeah,
they've already keep their players ticking over.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of changes. I mean, it looked like half the Real Madrid squad couldn't move at the end of that game. So I'd probably, you know what? I'm going to go for a gamble him back in Atleti victory. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory in this one, but I don't think it'll be a very interesting game.
Fair enough, the Cubs.
Yeah, annoyingly, I'm going to go same as Henry again. I'm going to back Atleti to win this. I think, who was it? I can't remember. After Real Madrid beat Chelsea in the quarterfinals, I think I'd said that they'd kind of probably run out of steam a little bit, and they did. I think was it Osasuna they were playing in the following game, and Osasuna was so bad, and yet Real Madrid almost didn't beat them. So I'm gonna say 2-0 to Atleti. I think Simeone's gonna get them really fired up. Like, they have had a really disappointing season, but they're still quite a good team on paper.
Yeah, they are.
And they are still comfortably one of the best 4 teams on paper, at least in Spain. I think Simeone will really get into them. Like, he does not want to lose that 4th spot. So I think this is the perfect time to play them in some ways. 2-0 to Atleti.
2-0 to Atleti. I get your points. I think they'll be fully motivated. It's embarrassing for Atleti, really, what's happened this year. To be champions down in 4th, might be missing out on Champions League. Their closest rivals are in the Champions League final. You know, deservedly in terms of results, but they've over-exceeded expectations, Real Madrid, this year. So I think this might end up with being a draw. I'm kind of with Henry. I don't think it'll be that entertaining. 1-1. If you're going to watch a game on Sunday night, I'd probably watch Hellas Verona versus Milan, to be totally honest.
For sure.
I'm going 1-1. We're just going to do this quick fire question very, very quickly, because we haven't been talking for ages. Anika Anya, I hope I pronounced that right, Anika, says, how do you feel about away goals being scrapped in the Champions League? Now, I went quite hard when this was initially said and said I thought it was a bad idea because it would lead to more extra time. But actually, looking at the knockouts this year in both the Europa League and the Champions League, it's been excellent. I don't know whether that's down to away goals. I mean, Henry, where do you stand on this?
Yeah, completely for it. I think it's great. I think if you take the Liverpool-Villarreal game as an example, Villarreal, obviously the underdogs, the fact that they got it back to 2-0 in that second leg, if Liverpool had scored once, by the old rule, they'd have then had to score 2 more times and it would have killed off the tie anyway. I just still think it adds a lifeline to smaller teams like that. I think I haven't seen anyone complain about the away goals being missed. It doesn't feel like it's missed at all. No. I think there's not an absence, there's not emotion for it, which I think makes it any more exciting. And the game that we saw last night has only confirmed my belief that away goals, I don't have any pure hatred for it is a thing of the past, and I think the new system's just better. So yeah, I completely agree. More excitement, more jeopardy. Well, not less jeopardy, but in sort of different kind of jeopardy. But yeah, it's fine.
I think it'd be difficult to argue that it's a bad decision after seeing Chelsea versus Real Madrid go to extra time and create a lot of drama that way. Man City versus Real Madrid as well. Although actually it would have helped Real Madrid to have away goals because they scored 3 at the Etihad. So it's a weird one. I mean, because maybe we won't know until a couple of years down the line.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. Yeah, like it'll probably become clear in a couple of years. I think it's been a particularly entertaining kind of quarterfinals and semi-finals. Like many years that it's not that's not the case. Also, like as good as Real Madrid, Man City was, like extra time was like after the Benzema goal. Like it really, I was quite disappointed by it really. I mean, you know, Real Madrid did what they had to do, but nevertheless, it was
fall over.
Obviously, yeah.
Take Benzema off.
Absolutely would do that. Yeah. To be fair, seeing Benzema on the bench with rocking what a tower, and he does look quite good in just anything he's in, doesn't he? Benzema, bit of a fashion icon, but nevertheless, So I think it's a bit of both. But yeah, this season has been great. And actually, to be fair, what is great about it, when you're watching a great game and it's like, I really want extra time. Like how many Champions League ties that have been, decided on away goals would you have were you ready to see another half hour of? Probably quite a few over the years. So in that sense, yeah, I'm quite behind it. Not amazing player welfare, but these are players playing at the best clubs in the world with the best medical teams in the world. I'm sure they can find a way around it.
Are you for or against golden goal? Oh, the
golden goal.
No, not golden goal.
I'm back
away goals.
Thing is, I think away goals was really exciting. I think we do forget how exciting away goals was, though. Like it was, and it did throw games all over the place. And your point about small teams, I feel like there were quite a few small teams that won on away goals. Like Jose Mourinho running down the Old Trafford touchline, that was an away goal. Things like that. Equally, like all those games would have gone to extra time anyway. So so far I'm quite happy with it.
I think football and sport in general will always find there will be drama in whatever system they integrate. Like the game itself doesn't change, but maybe slightly just
and on a
technical drama.
Technical element the technical element of it as well does kind of ring true. Like that, you're not as you don't have as much of a disadvantage playing away from home these days as you did in the 60s when it would have first brought in. Like that's just a fact. Like especially at elite clubs, like most pitches are pretty similar.
When you're flying between stadiums, you're not bussing.
Yeah, like all those kind of things. You've got international squads who are like, you're not got like a group of 11 Englishmen who've never left the country, like turning up in like Madrid or whatever. You know what I mean? It's not
Belgrade.
It's not like that. Yeah, exactly. It's not like that anymore. So it makes sense in a lot of ways like that.
I like it. Maybe, guys, let us know in the comments whether you'd like an explained on the impact of the away goals. Could actually be quite interesting. Maybe not the biggest view count, but like...
I don't know if we would be able to explain it.
Yeah, exactly. We maybe just put down some thoughts, but let us know whether you want to see that in the comments below. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed our Continental Club for this week. I hope you've enjoyed... Yeah, it's been a pretty in-depth discussion about rebuilds. We did some big match predictions. We talked away goals, etc. Henry, if they've enjoyed this, what should they go and watch now?
Oh, we got the biggest stories from the Championship this season.
Oi.
Ben Brereton Diaz could go to one of these clubs, I'm telling you. The Chilean sensation himself. I enjoyed writing that, and I got it in 2 sections about Fulham. Let's go check that out if you haven't already.
Nice. And the Cubs, who are you taking on in the football pyramid tomorrow?
Oh, I am
taking...
I won't reveal the score, no, but I'm taking on the one and only Joe Tomlinson. A rematch of many great Stat Wars clashes. Not quite on the level of the Stat Wars clashes with Doogie, of course. The all-time great clashes between you. Yeah, exactly. But very entertaining episode with a lot of drama and some unnecessary lifelines. So make sure you check that out.
Nice. That'll be out tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next week. Bye.